Hey everybody, so this is take two because apparently I left it on photo mode and I was just taking a picture of my face. So I'm gonna do a quick video compilation. I'm gonna put together some of the things I'm doing to modify certain pipes. First warning, please only do this with pipes that, or anything that isn't gonna bring you to tears. If it doesn't go well, if it gets ruined or destroyed, I recommend you do this with things that are replaceable. So if you're going to do a stem, make sure that you can get a replacement stem because not everything goes well the first time. I'm going to show you some things I've learned from multiple YouTube channels, notably Southland Piper. He's got some great pointers and he coaches you through some really great techniques. If you guys have any more questions or on anything that I'm not covering here, he's a much better source than I am for anything. But I'm going to start off with a cob that I am modifying them for the Missouri Meerschaum show. I'm going to filter this cob. It is not a filtered cob normally, and but you can use this same technique that I'm using on this cob to open up the airway, maybe open up the draw if you like a more wide open draw. All of those techniques will work. It doesn't have to be complicated. There are better tools for this than what I have, but I have the tools that I have, and that's what I'm going to use. So I'll show you what I do with what I have. So this is the cob, and it's a shorty, and it's called a Colonial Gentleman. I love the way the stem looks. I like the cob in general. I wish it was more of a country gentleman bowl. This one's a little more short and stout, but that's fine. And what we're going to do is filter it for this white elephant filter, which you can see to fit in there nicely is going to need to be sunk pretty deeply into this stem. You're going to want to check your depths the whole time that you're doing this process, because too far one way you'll ruin this stem, and this one's actually kind of hard to get a hold of. And if you don't go deep enough, then you'll have to open up the shank, which, I mean, if I had to replace the stem, I'd probably have to get a whole nother one of these and I'd be out the money I invested. But this is the white elephant filters are some of the higher quality for the 6mm filters. They do a much better job. They don't get as moisture laden throughout an entire bowl. Very easy to use. But what you're going to want is a full set of bits that come in multiple steps. And so what you see here is I have flipped upside down. I have marking my starting point, and I go all the way up to this 1/4 inch bit, which is my ending point. I'll show you here. See if you can get an idea. This is, sorry, I can't seem to hold it still, the exact same diameter as the 6mm filter. So this is my target size. It's a 1/4 inch bit. And I'm going to step my way up one ream at a time until I hit this 1/4 inch bit. Once I get to that point, I'm going to do a little bit of light reaming so that there's not a whole lot of friction, so when the filter expands, because when they get wet they do expand, so when the filter expands a little bit when it gets wet, I can still pull it out without having to drill it out. That is a lesson I learned the hard way. So guys, I'm a few steps in, and as you can see here, I've got the drill bit sank all the way on the drill here. I'm doing this by myself, so I'm holding the camera, so I can't do this while I'm drilling. But what you're going to want to do when you're drilling is constantly throughout the process stop and mark the depth that you're at, whether it's with tape or something else, because as you move up, right, you're not going to be marking every single bit. I guess you could, but you're going to mark the depth that you're at, and then you're going to pull this bit off, and then you're going to hold it outside or with the bit outside of that, so you can check how deep into that stem you're going. You do not want to compromise the integrity of the stem itself. You need to be able to trust that it's going to go in and out of the pipe without cracking or causing any kind of problems. Something to note also is what I've learned is as you remove material here, the stem and mortar, or the tenon Morris and tenon connection gets a little weaker. So if the material here was causing any kind of width, I don't know how to put this, but when you remove this internal material, there is a chance that this becomes looser. And I learned from Paul Gilson's channel that a thin coat of nail polish will actually, once you let it dry on here, can make up for some of that. But we want to avoid that if we can. So here you can see I've got the edge of the bit held to the depth that it was at, because I'm doing this with one hand and holding the camera. But as you can see, I have plenty more room, plenty more depth, which I'm going to need to use to sink this filter as far in as I can. So I'm going to want to stop with at least a 1/4 inch of this wide part of the stem material left untouched. And that's what I'm going to be working to next. So something you want to keep in mind as you do this, you're going to want to keep reaming the drill bit in and out each time you go up in size. Get that back in focus, so that you can have a clean drill there. But you also want to make sure that when you feel it start to bottom out, you don't push it too far. That way you don't end up going farther than you want to go. Now, as far as keeping it centered, which a lot of people are going to be worried about, these are already drilled when you get them, and the drill bit will tend to follow that hole. So as long as you're stepping it up properly and paying attention, this shouldn't come off of being centered, not by much, but you need to pay attention, and pay attention to the force and resistance that you're getting in the bit. Okay, so I had to employ some tools because I can't do this with one hand anymore. So this is a clamp-on vise, and my phone is now on a tripod. But we are here at the 1/4 inch bit size. We are just reaming out the final little bits. And we'll do a test fit. Now notice that this isn't tightly in there because you want to know when there's resistance. But the 6mm filter fits perfectly. And is still tight in the cob. Hey guys, this is Garrett. So I was just putting together the video of the stem modification, and I had some things I forgot to say, so I'm going to add this in here at the end. One of the most important things to note is it is much easier and safer for the product itself, not for you, but for the product, if what you're drilling out or reaming is fresh material. If it's been smoked, if it's been heated up and cooled, those will get brittle. They'll get very brittle. And that's something to keep in mind. I'm sure there's a number of methods you could use to reinforce things, make it a little easier, but those aren't all guaranteed, which is part of why I mentioned that you're going to want to make sure it's nothing that you're going to be heartbroken if it goes south. I've had a few basket pipes that I played with doing this that have worked out beautifully, and some that have been utterly destroyed, and now they have to have different stems. You also need to make sure that you have plenty of the mortise and tenon, the original connection, left. You don't want things being too thin, because then you're relying upon the strength of the filter, or lack thereof if you decide to go without a filter later, to hold up that connection. And by removing material, you're removing that connection, and thus creating a potential weak spot in case it gets dropped or something like that. Also, please, if you're going to use a hand drill like I do, go as slow as possible. You don't want to build up to a lot of friction. You don't want to build up a lot of heat as you're doing all that. The final, like reaming and whatnot, that's kind of inconsequential. Make sure you do clean it before you smoke it. Last thing you want to do is inhale any of the powder left over from drilling. And with the vulcanite stems, something that you can do, I think it'll work with acrylic too, but I just know for a fact it works with the vulcanite, is see if you can warm that up. Don't put it in the microwave or anything, but like, a hair dryer or something else, so that instead of cracking, the material sort of gives way a little bit. Make sure that you're centered when you use that though, because as the material gets softer, the drill bit is much less likely to follow that original pilot hole. So this is going to be the first video of a couple that I'm going to put together. They were by request, for John, from John's pipe journey. Yeah, I'll see what more I can get put together. Maybe make it just a little quick, like, helpful series. But yeah, don't do this with anything you can't replace. Don't do this with anything super valuable. And I recommend doing it with cobs, to start with, at least, because you can always get another cob stem. You can always go get another forever stem. It may not have the same exact swirl you like, but you can always get another one. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover, but I don't know. I guess I'll have to re-upload an amended video if I come up with something else. But thanks, guys, and let me know in the comments if you have any further questions. I'll see if I can shoot you an answer for what I've found. There are much better resources out there than myself, but the more sources for information we all have, the easier it is to find. So, see you later. Bye.